Please stop expecting Julian to come back for family events. Today is my younger brother's wedding day, and his fiancée, Vanessa, had just launched herself at me with words that cut through the air, and me, like a sharp knife. Her voice was loud enough for everyone to hear, and her anger left no room for misinterpretation. The very thought of my brother's wedding had filled me with joy, but now I stood here, humiliated in front of our entire family. The pain from her words lodged deep in my chest and spread like wildfire through my body. The warm atmosphere of celebration dimmed instantly, replaced by a cold, heavy silence that blanketed the room. Was I the only one shaken by her words, or were the guests now judging me too? I could feel their eyes, cold, piercing stares, boring into me, as if they silently agreed I didn't belong. "You shouldn't be coming around here," Vanessa hissed, her sharp eyes narrowing. "You don't really belong here, Rebecca." Her gaze made it clear she saw me as nothing more than a burden. "You have no place here," her eyes seemed to say. I opened my mouth to respond, to defend myself, but no words came out. They caught in my throat, tangled in the storm of emotions. Anger, sadness, frustration, that swirled inside me, too overwhelming to untangle. My breaths felt tight, my legs started to tremble, and for a moment I couldn't move. As much as I wanted to deny it, a part of me wondered if she was right. Had I leaned too heavily on Julian? Over the years, had I unknowingly become a burden? It was true, my presence had strained their relationship. Julian and I had always been close, and maybe that closeness had made it hard for Vanessa to feel like she truly belonged. But even if I was the problem, she didn't have to say it like this. Her words weren't meant to solve anything. They were meant to put me in my place. "I understand," I said, though the voice didn't feel like my own. It was quiet, raw, and hollow, as if someone else had spoken for me. I stood up, trying to stay calm, though every fiber of my being screamed to run. I wanted to stay, if only to see the ceremony through, but I knew I couldn't. I wouldn't ruin Ken's happy day with my presence. I turned and walked toward the door, feeling like I was slipping out of my own life. Just as I reached for the handle, a loud crash echoed behind me. I turned to see a chair had fallen, the noise breaking the heavy silence that had filled the room. "My name is Rebecca. I'm 32 years old, and sometimes I wonder how different life would have been if that accident hadn't happened. Julian and I lost our parents when I was 11 and he was just 8. They were coming back from a weekend trip when the accident occurred. By the time we got to the hospital, they were gone. It felt as though the entire world had gone silent. I couldn't process what had happened. My only clear memory from that day was Julian's small hand trembling in mine. After that, we went to live in a children's home. The staff were kind, and we quickly grew close to the other kids. But no matter how familiar our surroundings became, there was always an ache inside me, a hollow, unfillable void. I wanted to see Julian smile again, so I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't cry in front of him. I believed if I cried, he would feel sad too. From then on, being a big sister became my purpose. It was the only thing that kept me going. When I turned 18, I had to leave the children's home. There were programs that could help us pursue college, but I chose not to use them. If anyone was going to college, it had to be Julian. I started working during the day and took night classes at a vocational school to learn event planning. I had a small dream of starting my own business one day, but that dream always felt distant. My main goal was to support Julian. I even took out loans to ensure he could go to college without worry. Watching him work hard at his studies only strengthened my resolve. I wanted to give him the opportunities I never had. And Julian didn't let me down. He graduated and landed a job at a large company. When he told me the news, I couldn't hold back my tears. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, it had all been worth it to see him succeed. After he started working, Julian began sending me $2,000 every month. I told him he didn't have to, that he should save it for himself. But his response left me speechless. "Sis, you did everything for me. Not giving something back would feel wrong. Please accept this." I cried again when I read his message. His words filled me with gratitude, but they also reminded me that I needed to stand on my own 2 feet. Quietly, I started saving the money he sent. I didn't spend a dime of it, hoping to one day return it if he ever needed help. Meanwhile, I used the skills I'd learned in school to start a small event planning business. In the beginning, it was just me working alone. But as time went on, the business grew and I became busier. Julian even started helping me on the weekends despite his demanding job. Then one day, Julian told me he had started dating someone, Vanessa. She worked at a partner company, and from the way he spoke about her, it was clear how happy she made him. Seeing that joy on his face made me genuinely happy too. A year later, during one of our walks home after dinner, Julian shared that he was planning to marry her. As the words left his mouth, a strange weight settled inside me. I smiled and congratulated him. But deep down, I felt an odd pang. Was it loneliness? Or the fear of losing him? Vanessa seemed like a good person. She made Julian happy, and when we first met, she was polite and kind. Still, there was something in her smile that felt distant, almost measured. At first, I thought it was my own insecurities clouding my judgment, but that feeling became harder to ignore after I met her family. We gathered for a pre-wedding dinner at a nice Japanese restaurant. Vanessa's parents were elegant and sophisticated, the kind of people who exuded effortless charm. Yet, beneath their polite demeanor, there was an air of subtle condescension. "You've come so far, growing up in a children's home. I mean, how admirable," Vanessa's mother said, her tone friendly but her gaze laced with judgment. Her words were carefully neutral, but they stung. Julian, ever composed, answered politely, "I wouldn't have come this far without my sister." His voice was steady, but I caught the tension beneath it. Julian had always spoken proudly of our past, but here he seemed to be holding back. I wanted to defend him, to remind them how hard we had worked to build a life for ourselves, but I couldn't. I wouldn't risk saying something that might dampen Julian's happiness. After dinner, he told me not to worry, but his reassurances only deepened the ache in my chest. I could see he was hurt too. Despite the uneasiness, I wanted to make things work. Above all, I wanted Julian to be happy. I made an effort to connect with Vanessa as the wedding plans moved forward. We spent time together reviewing guest lists and picking out dresses. She was polite, cooperative even, but I couldn't shake the feeling that her warmth was superficial. Then, one day, her words cut through the polite pretense. "Is Julian still sending you money?" she asked, her tone casual but her gaze sharp. Her next words hit me like a stone. "Honestly, I think it's a bit much. Now that we're getting married, our finances should come first." I froze, caught between defensiveness and guilt. Vanessa wasn't entirely wrong. It was time for Julian to focus on his new family, but she didn't understand what that money meant. It wasn't just repayment, it was a testament to everything we had built together, the sacrifices we had made for each other. That night, I knew I had to bring it up with Julian. "Vanessa doesn't seem happy about the money, does she?" I said carefully, trying to gauge his reaction. "I figured she'd bring it up," Julian replied with a sigh. He looked resigned, but there was also a quiet determination in his eyes. "Maybe it's time to stop," I said, the words heavy on my tongue. "You have a family to focus on now." The ache in my heart grew as I spoke, but I knew it was the right thing to do. "I'm not stopping," Julian said firmly. "Rebecca, you've done so much for me. I can't just quit now." His words brought tears to my eyes, but I blinked them away before he could see. "All right, Julian, I understand." I didn't want to push him. I knew that forcing him to stop would only make him more determined. For now, I would let him make his choice. Here's a rewritten version of your segment for better flow, emotional depth, and clarity. The wedding day finally arrived. I had done everything I could to support their happiness. Julian's happiness was all I had ever wanted. But deep down, a lingering unease settled in my heart. Would Vanessa truly be the one to support him the way he deserved? The ceremony went smoothly, and for a brief moment I felt at peace. Watching Julian's radiant smile made all the years of sacrifice seem worth it. But that peace didn't last. During the reception, it happened. "Please stop coming to visit Julian." Vanessa's words rang out like a dagger, sharp and deliberate, cutting through the hum of conversation. The room went silent, every gaze turning toward me. I stood frozen, the air knocked out of me. My face flushed, then went pale as the humiliation sank in. Vanessa's piercing gaze seemed to scream that I didn't belong here, that I was an outsider intruding on her life. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. My throat tightened with a tangled mess of anger, sadness, and humiliation. All I managed was a single word, my voice distant and unfamiliar. "Understood." I turned toward the door, willing myself to leave without breaking down, determined not to cause a scene. But just as my hand reached for the door, I heard a loud crash behind me. I spun around to see Julian standing, his chair knocked over in a commotion. His face was filled with uncharacteristic fury. "Vanessa, do you even know what you just said?" His voice was low, but the anger in it was unmistakable. Vanessa looked startled, her confident composure faltering. "Julian, I didn't mean—" "Enough." Julian cut her off, his tone razor sharp. "You don't know anything about what she's done for me." The room was silent, the weight of his words echoing through the stunned crowd. "Without my sister, I wouldn't even be here today," Julian continued, his voice shaking with emotion. "She sacrificed everything, her time, her dreams, her future, so I could have mine. I send her money every month because it's not charity. It's respect and gratitude. She gave me everything, and this is the least I can do in return." Vanessa's face went pale as Julian's words pierced through the room. The tension was palpable. Then, one by one, voices began to rise in support of me. "She's always been there for Julian," an aunt said, stepping forward. "We all know how much Rebecca has done for this family. She helped him through so much," added another relative. "She's always put others before herself." Even Julian's colleagues began to speak up. "Honestly, Vanessa can be difficult," one admitted reluctantly. "At work, she's known for her sharp tongue and pushing others down." "It's true," another chimed in. "She can be overly harsh, always looking out for herself." With every word, Vanessa's confidence crumbled. Her face turned ghostly white as the respect she thought she commanded slipped away. Then, just as the murmurs reached their peak, the doors to the hall swung open. A man entered, impeccably dressed, his presence commanding attention. "My apologies for being late," he said, his voice steady. "Mr. Jameson, welcome." Someone greeted him, their tone respectful. Mr. Jameson was a prominent figure, a senior manager from a company that worked closely with Vanessa's family business. He scanned the room, his sharp gaze taking in the tension. "Is something the matter here?" he asked. "Oh no, Mr. Jameson, just a family misunderstanding," Vanessa's father said quickly, attempting to downplay the situation. Mr. Jameson's eyes settled on me. "You must be Rebecca. I've heard impressive things about your event planning company." I blinked, caught off guard. "Thank you, Mr. Jameson," I said, my voice hesitant. He nodded. "Rebecca is a foster home graduate, correct?" "I grew up in foster care myself." The room fell silent, the weight of his revelation settling over everyone. "I've always respected those who overcome adversity," Mr. Jameson continued, his tone firm. "Rebecca's work reflects that spirit. At our company, we choose partners based on merit, not background. Excluding someone because of their past is not only unfair but goes against our values." Vanessa's father looked visibly uncomfortable, his face paling as Mr. Jameson's words landed. Another voice broke the silence. "Julian's. I can't marry someone who doesn't respect my family," he said, his tone final. Vanessa's face twisted in disbelief, but she couldn't form a response. Julian crossed the room and hugged me tightly, his voice breaking as he spoke. "Thank you, Rebecca, for everything, for always being there for me." Tears welled in my eyes as I hugged him back. "Thank you, Julian. I'll always be here for you." That moment marked the beginning of a new chapter. In the months that followed, my event planning business grew, thanks in part to Mr. Jameson's support. Julian became my business partner, using his skills to help us expand and take on new challenges. Together, we created something incredible, building a future rooted in the strength of our bond. "We've come so far," Julian said one day as we reflected on our journey. "We have," I agreed, a smile on my face. "And I'm grateful for every step." Together, we moved forward, side by side, creating a life full of opportunity, respect, and love.